Okay, listen, either you just clicked on this video or I sent you this in a link when you asked me this question. What is the best first camera to buy? And I'm gonna answer that, just stay tuned. Okay, listen, I get this question a lot and I'm gonna answer it, but this room isn't really doing it for me and I wanna go somewhere creative and whatnot to get the juices flowing, so let's get going. Alright, now let's start off with my first camera. Okay, this was my first camera. Like this actual camera was my first camera. I sold it to my buddy and he gave it back to me for a bit. This is a Canon T3i and this is what built a lot of my skills. This camera doesn't have much. It doesn't have follow focus in video. It doesn't have fantastic auto ISO. It doesn't even have the best picture quality, but it's good enough to get started. The important thing about this is that you learn a lot using it. You learn the fundamentals of using a camera. You learn how to control your ISO, shutter speed, and the other one. You learn how to control your ISO, your aperture, and your shutter speed all together to make one beautiful picture. And you have to, or else it won't work for you. And it was really cheap. It's easy to get into the business when you have a camera like this. The kit lens it comes with is obviously not great, but that's the thing with Canons, is that lenses are super cheap. Canon's lower level of EF lenses are really good for a super cheap price. The Nifty 50 is one of the greatest lenses ever made. That the 10-18, that wide angle I used for a year and a half. It was fantastic. I loved that wide angle. So my first choice would be something in the Canon Rebel I series. Now if you're gonna get one, get the T3i instead of the T3, or the T5i instead of the T5. Why? The I series have the flip out screen, have touchscreen later on, have an audio jack. Always go for the I series. If you're gonna get a T6 instead of a T3i, go for the T3i. The non-I versions are dedicated a lot more to photography and cheaper setups. Go with the I, trust me, it will bite you in the if you don't. Other than that, if you have a little bit more money to spend, I would go with an 80D. That's what I ended up upgrading to from this, and that was also a fantastic camera. I even miss it a bit sometimes compared to this one. The 80D has amazing autofocus, great picture quality, and I only really upgraded to the Sony because I wanted 120 FPS and better low light. Other than that, it's a fantastic mid-range camera. It's probably the best. I would choose it over the 90D for a better price with pretty much the exact same feature. Just a quick side note while we're talking about Canon cameras, I've also heard the SL1, 2, and 3 are also fantastic options for vloggers or starting videographers. They have a lot more of the tech from the higher level Canons packed into them in a very small form factor. I would probably recommend the SL2 for best price and features. Okay, moving on. Okay, next camera. Let's talk about this little guy. This is a Sony a6300. This is my second camera that I use in shoots in case that one dies or in case I need a second shot of someone talking. The A6000 range, they're great cameras. They have bad battery life except for the new one. They use the same picture profile as the Sony I'm currently shooting on. They have smaller sensors and obviously they're cheaper, but they are great little cameras. For an example, the A6100 would probably be a great starter camera. Now, since this is an A6300, I'll give you all the stats of that right here, and here are all the stats of the A6100, which is the more budget-friendly option. For a first camera, this is a fantastic option. Now let's talk about Nikon. Okay, I've never personally been a fan of Nikon. I know people who've used them and they've been great. So I did a bit of research and this one's good and this one's good. This one's expensive, but it's better. If you really want to, I've heard a lot about this one. This is the mirrorless one and I've heard it's actually really good and it is quite comparable to this one, but it's also a lot more expensive. Now, as for like Panasonic and Fiji, I don't know. I've never had any personal experience with them. I've honestly never been interested in them. I've always kind of looked at the big three, which is Canon, Panasonic, and Nikon. No, it's not. It's Canon, Sony, and Nikon. And Canon and Sony have worked fantastic for me. But we're missing out on the ultimate starter camera, the perfect one for anyone starting on a budget, the perfect one for people wanting good quality. Why did I hit the fence with it? It's your phone. The best starter camera is in your pocket. In fact, you're probably watching this video on the best starter camera of all time. It's cheap, it's super accessible, it looks great, and there's literally a train coming? Are you seeing this? Of course, the one spot I picked to film a video. Alright, now listen, I understand the phones aren't all sunshine and rainbows, some are better than others, and they don't give you a lot of creative freedom, that's the problem. So honestly, if you really want to get into vlogging or if you want to get into making videos as a profession, I would recommend going with one of the ones that I've recommended on the list, probably a cheaper DSLR. But that being said, I'm sick of people not counting phones as a viable option. I started my first videos on a phone and look where I'm now. Doing alright. Ooh, just at this part, I also forgot to mention the Canon G7X. It's like the vlog camera that literally every vlogger uses. So I've given you some options. I've told you your phone is great. Okay, come on, really? God, every type of transportation is trying to wreck my video today. So I've given you some options. I've told you that your phone is great. So what's my recommendation? It really doesn't matter to an extent. So first off, it doesn't matter because more important than gear itself is getting your ideas into a video and starting. It's important just to take steps in general, not even necessarily in the right direction. Just to take the steps to get on your way to making videos is the ultimate thing that you need to do when buying a first camera. Just getting something and getting going is more important than dwelling over getting the perfect camera that'll suit you perfectly. What you need to do is get something and then roll with the punches. Find out what you don't like about the camera by using it. And then if you really don't like it, sell it and buy a new one. Cameras retain their value pretty well, so that shouldn't be too difficult. Just buying something you think will suit you and then figuring out what you like about it and what you don't is a lot more important than dwelling over getting the perfect camera, which you probably won't anyways. There's no perfect camera. Honestly, this camera, I love its slow-mo, I love the picture quality, I love the sensor. The screen is the most absolute piece of I can't even see myself. It's not a flip-out screen. That annoys me so much. It's more important to be creating things with it and using it. Develop your skills as the cameraman. The camera's already got it. So pick something. And when you're picking that something, try to find a crossing between what you think you're going to film and what the camera's really good at. I film a lot of slow-mo B-roll. This camera's a beast for that. I also need 4K. This camera is a beast at 4K. I love color grading and this camera gives me S-Log to do that with. Say you want to just do sit-down videos, find a camera that does 1080p at 30 frames per second. Spoiler alert, they all do. Pick something, go with it, and learn how to use it. Hone your skills from that, and then move on to a new camera when you know what you need. So to sum this video up, it's more about just getting out and creating than it is about sitting and dwelling on making everything perfect. It's just like at the start of this video. When I started off, I wasn't feeling inspired or anything, so I just took steps. I just got out of the house. I just started filming things. That's how I get my creative juices flowing. Taking steps and just trying something is what I built my career on. It's what I do every single shoot. It's what I built my YouTube channel on. You just need to start. Starting is the most important, and then go from there. You'll figure it out if you keep trying, you have an open mind, and after all that is said and done, you'll finally find yourself on the right track. Thanks for watching. Of course, the one spot I picked to film a video.